Tonight on LNN, breaking news: Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, and the Senate votes 51 to 48 to spend trillions on the budget. All this and more on LNN Tonight. We start off with breaking news in Fort Lauderdale as an airport shooting occurred earlier this morning. Officials say 5 people were shot dead and 8 wounded in a baggage claim area at the airport, and law enforcement said that the suspect had brought the firearm in his checked luggage. The suspect's name is Esteban Santiago, and he was supposedly taken into custody without incident. As of right now, we know that at least 13 people were shot, 8 were taken to the hospital, and the Broward Health Medical Center officials told reporters 5 trauma patients were being treated. The patients were in stable condition. 2 victims underwent surgery Friday afternoon, and the officials didn't discuss to the extent of the victims' injuries. The suspect joined the National Guard in Puerto Rico in 2007, and in April 2010 he went to Iraq for 10 months. A spokeswoman for the Alaska Army National Guard said Santiago was in the Army Reserves before he joined the Guard there in November 2014. Lieutenant Candace Olmstead said Santiago was discharged in August for unsatisfactory performance. One of Santiago's military awards was a Combat Action Badge. The suspect showed up several months ago at the FBI office in Anchorage. He was interviewed and said he was hearing voices in his head, including some telling him to join ISIS. He was taken to a hospital for a mental health evaluation, and he voluntarily checked himself in. A senior federal law enforcement official told CNN the visit came in November, and Santiago reported his mind was being controlled by a U.S. intelligence agency. Santiago said he didn't want to harm anyone, but was erratic and made disjointed statements. The FBI interviewed family members and checked with other agencies and in databases before closing its investigation. Some friends of Santiago accompanied him to the FBI office, and Santiago worked for a security company in Anchorage. Santiago flew from Anchorage to Minneapolis and then to Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. The gunman likely acted alone. The sheriff said it was too early to say whether terrorism was the motive. Some passengers were stuck on arriving planes for more than 6 hours before they were allowed off. Governor Rick Scott told reporters the citizens of Florida will not tolerate senseless acts of evil. Whoever is responsible will be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. The governor also added that now was time to mourn the dead and pray for the hospitalized victims, not talk about gun laws. Over to Washington, D.C. tonight as the Senate votes 51 to 48 to repeal Obamacare and add $9 trillion of debt to the budget. This bill was just barely passed, and a simple majority was needed to advance it. The budget resolution and healthcare law repeal consisted of many changes to the coming budget, including adding $9 trillion to the debt. The Senate is expected to hold on to this bill before Trump is inaugurated, as sending it to Obama would obviously not be a good idea. Of course, very few Republicans voted against this, as this was a Republican bill, but Republican Libertarian Rand Paul, of course, voted against this, and also yesterday we covered it, made a lengthy speech about why this bill is stupid and adding $9 trillion is not a good idea. Yesterday we covered it. The terrorist attack by BLM members decided to tie up and kidnap a mentally ill white man and yell racial slurs while live streaming this to Facebook. They tortured him for up to 48 hours. Thankfully, the Chicago Police Department has issued no bail for these four suspects. During the course of this terrorist attack, the family says the defendant communicated with the victim's mother and demanded a $300 ransom in exchange for her son back. This hostage was not only tortured, but also held for ransom, which is just amazing to me that the mainstream media is trying to not say this is terrorist or a hate crime. I don't know what a hate crime is if this isn't one. And even the police say it's not politically motivated, even though the suspects shouted F Trump and F white people. Sounds very politically motivated. BLM denied involvement in this kidnapping, although their rhetoric supports this kind of behavior, and these four suspects are still members of the BLM. On Wednesday, President Obama decided that he would award himself a defense medal for distinguished public service, and we thought Donald Trump was narcissist. Secretary Carter awarded his boss with a medal on January 4th during the Armed Forces Full Honor Farewell Review, which was held at the Joint Base Myer-Henderson Hall in Virginia. Carter insisted that the medal was a token of appreciation for Obama's service as Commander-in-Chief. I guess after 8 years of failure, Obama needs something to feel good about himself, and what better than a participation award? On to international news tonight, as South Korea appointed a Twitter officer to monitor President-elect Donald Trump's tweets. The South Korean Ministry of Foreign Affairs and North American Affairs Bureau assigned an officer to keep an eye on Trump's tweets, particularly those related to Northeast Asia and the Korean Peninsula. The Korean government is still in the process of building ties with Trump and does not have a lot of insight into his foreign policies like most of the world, according to a South Korean media outlet. His 140-character posts are currently the most effective insight into policies of the incoming administration. Trump tweeted about North Korea Monday, saying North Korea just stated that it is in the final stages of developing a nuclear weapon capable of reaching parts of the U.S. It won't happen. He then decided to blast China in a follow-up tweet. China has been taking out massive amounts of money and wealth from the U.S. in totally one-sided trade, but won't help with North Korea. Nice. Of course, Donald Trump's tweets haven't really specified anything about South Korea. China did criticize Trump's Twitter diplomacy, and foreign policy is not child's play, according to a news agency in China. And also, they said Twitter should not become an instrument of foreign policy. Still, though, South Korea decided to have its own government personnel specifically watching Trump's Twitter account 24/7. And our final story tonight goes to Congress, as Representative Thomas Massie has delivered the Safe Students Act to his colleagues in Congress. The bill would repeal the gun-free zone laws on schools across the United States. The bill, originally introduced by Ron Paul in 2007, repeals the Gun-Free School Zones Act of 1990, which makes it unlawful for any individual knowingly to possess a firearm at a place that the individual knows or has reasonable cause to believe is a school zone. In 1995, the Supreme Court held that the GFSZA was unconstitutional, which prompted Congress to amend the bill in 1996. The Supreme Court has not ruled on the constitutionality of the amended act. Massie, who is the chairman of the newly formed Second Amendment Caucus, said in a press release that gun-free school zones are ineffective, adding they make people less safe by inviting criminals into target-rich, no-risk environments. Gun-free zones prevent law-abiding citizens from protecting themselves and create vulnerable populations that are targeted by criminals. A bigger federal government can't solve this problem. Weapons bans and gun-free zones are unconstitutional. They do not and cannot prevent criminals or the mentally ill from committing acts of violence. He added, but they often prevent victims of such violence from protecting themselves. Massey is supported by his co-sponsors, Representatives Louis Gohmert, Brian Babin, and James Comer, along with Jody Hice. The bill has also garnered the support of the NRA, Guns Owners of America, and the National Association for Gun Rights. Democrats across the nation are expected to fight this legislation, if not protest it. Thank you so much for watching this episode of LNN Tonight. I'm Daniel Morrison, and we will see you guys on Monday.